having lovely weather. I don't know what it is in Missouri.
It's still a little warm at this part of year, but it's not. It's kind of past its peak, so it's kind of coming down in temperature. But
same here. Yeah.
Not as bad as Texas, where I'm from. So it's a lot cooler here than there. So
you from Missouri?
Yeah, I was raised here in Missouri, born in California, but then raised in Missouri.
I see. And yeah, we're in Texas.
Arlington, Texas. It's like right between Dallas and Fort Worth. So not really, more city girl than country girl, I guess, but warmer climate. So
my wife and my daughter made the Mecca trip to Waco to see
Magnolia.
You know, I have a horrible confession.
Chip and Joanna, you know, everything's Chip and Joanna.
I've never been. I haven't seen it yet. Like, I have not been yet. I shouldn't, it's a confession, I shouldn't admit that, but it kind of became, we were overseas when it got real big, and we just haven't been yet, so.
Is that with Chip and Joanne?
Yep. I'm sure we'll go one of these days. We go to Texas enough, so.
Well, would Waco be close to hometown?
Oh yeah, what about it? Would you say about an hour and a half? Maybe.
An hour and a half, yeah.
About an hour and a half, yeah.
I understand Texas is kind of big.
Yeah.
Everything's big in Texas.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But we've been to Waco. Actually, our honeymoon
took us through Waco.
We went to San Antonio on our honeymoon, and we stayed in Waco one night. So yeah.
Pre-Chip and Joanna, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hole in the wall of nothing back then.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Just some old silos back then.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Hey, great having you guys in tonight. I'm glad to see a few were already on the call. How the Thomases doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Good. We're doing great. We got a few here that meet in the office as we like it. The rest chime in from home.
Awesome.
And we do always have a few that come in a few minutes late. That's okay.
Okay.
Hey, so the first few minutes, we just kind of let them get in and get acquainted, and it's lighthearted. So I wanted to try something different with you guys tonight as our experimental one.
Oh, great.
Okay. As folks get in, so we usually cover some of the same 3 or 4 questions in the phone call. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. But how some of the other church members are getting in, I want to play about 6 or 7 lighthearted, fun questions with you guys.
Okay. Sounds good.
Are you ready?
I'm a little nervous.
All right.
To be honest.
Number 1, favorite family board game? And each question for each of you.
So far, what?
I like Settlers of Catan. That's probably
Settlers
my favorite.
Has been a big one.
So
Yeah.
That's what we.
But we actually
we're already friends.
I gotta
put yes.
Do you have the extension pack?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have like the
extension.
Yeah, to make it where more people could play, but we don't have like the C's or the like all the different ones.
Like Seafarers.
Yeah, we don't have those.
We have some friends that have all of the extensions, so when we go over there, we kind of go through them. But we just have the main one. But yeah, we've been introducing our girls to it. They're 6 and 8, and they've already learned how to play, and they like it. But we actually just introduced them last night to Life, and they really like that one. So who knows? It may be a new favorite.
Good. So just Catan in our family is a tradition. Whenever the family's together, and it might start right after dinner, about 6:45, 7 o'clock. Might go till about 1 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
As many games as we can.
Yeah.
Very competitive.
Yeah.
And what color are you?
Table. What color?
Yeah. What color are you?
I always, if I can do it, I always choose the white piece. Otherwise, I'm orange.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm green myself. I avoid brown at all costs, though. Had some very bad games with brown.
Pastor Mike, what is this game? What is this game?
It's Settlers of Catan.
Oh, don't know that.
You're basically.
You'll have to have
I guess I'm missing out.
Yeah. It's very enjoyable, very competitive.
Yeah.
Now, I couldn't explain it better than the website, so I might just kind of refer someone to it.
Well, I'll refer to that.
Okay, question number 2. Favorite older Christian band?
Oh, that's your category more than me.
Res band.
Here lately, I have been missing Audio A.
Okay.
That is a sound from my past. That,
What cross?
mainly the Bloom album.
Okay, when in the States, question number 3 out of 7, favorite fast food, each of you?
Oh, Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, it's been a favorite this
The
time.
Lord's
Ever been
chicken.
to a Chick-fil-A? I've never been.
So you're in the South, but
Yeah,
yeah, you got a Chick-fil-A within 20 minutes?
we have one within 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm a little bit jelly over here.
It's actually it was voted one of the best in the nation just a couple months
Yeah,
ago. Yeah.
really good service.
They speed you through. You never wait in the line more than
Oh.
5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right, not even 10 minutes, about 5 minutes. And they pack them through 4 lanes of traffic around that building. And
Yeah.
just they get them
Do
through.
you guys not have Chick-fil-A there?
About an hour and 20 minutes away.
Oh, bless you. You're kind of on the mission field. Wow.
I mean, it's a real sacrifice. We're martyrs for the
We're
cause.
deprived people. We'll pray for you.
I came from having
I've never been to a
Chick-fil-A
Chick-fil-A.
about 5 minutes away, and it was right across from the kids' school. So every day I got
Oh yeah.
to Chick-fil-A about an hour before their school ended and just kind of lounged out.
There you go.
This will probably hurt your feelings, but most people at our church have not had Chick-fil-A before.
Oh, bless them.
You know, it takes all kinds. God is still good.
In the South, we say, bless their heart.
Bless their heart.
All right, question 4. Favorite verse, each of you,
Favorite verse.
or life verse?
I'm thinking there's a bunch of good ones.
Well, I'll go first.
Go
Mine
first.
is Isaiah chapter 24. Basically, the whole chapter is my favorite. For the Lord of hosts, thy maker is thy husband. I guess I was 25 when we got married, so I wasn't that young. But just like the way that he talks about, when thou goest through the rivers, he'll be with you, and all. I love that whole entire chapter. Just talking about, whatever you're going through, whatever you're facing, he's with you and he's for you and he's going before you. And I don't know.
Probably one of my favorites too, but it's one that God has been really showing me some stuff out of that I've been unpacking for the last year or so. Psalms 23. I know that's like everybody knows that one, but that's one of the things that drew me to it was kind of with the thought of some of those old familiar passages that it's like we think we've mined to death. It's like, oh, I know what that one says. I've memorized that one since I was a kid, and kind of unpacking and say, okay, God, what new can you bring to me out of this old familiar verse?
Yeah.
And I've actually been preaching out of it on Itineration a lot because there's so much in there that we can it's just amazing how deep that rabbit hole goes when you go down it. Just an old familiar passage, everybody knows it, even people who aren't church know it. But just the stuff God has spoke to me out of there has just been very useful in my life so far. So it's Psalms 23 has been my favorite lately.
Good. We'll put your question on pause for a second because I'm going to survey Diane. Diane, yes or no, have you ever had Chick-fil-A?
Have I ever had what?
Chick-fil-A?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Used to stop on the way to Maine every time.
Okay. Waffle fries?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the wraps are really good too, with the apple cider vinegar dressing.
I've never had that.
Oh, I always get the avocado lime ranch dressing. Ooh,
Oh, I've never tried that one, but the apple cider vinegar one is good.
good stuff. Okay, I'll have to try that next time.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to try new things, so I'll try. I'll let you know.
So question 5 is still food related as we allow a few more to get in. Favorite breakfast place?
Breakfast.
Randy.
Breakfast.
All right, first
Come on,
watch.
you know this.
My favorite breakfast place is the diner in Copenhagen.
Down south,
Oh, down south?
Georgia, Alabama, Texas.
Are you guys asking us or are you telling yours? I was listening for
Asking you guys.
us. Okay.
Oh, you guys. Okay.
Well, I shouldn't probably admit this. Oh, Lord, help me. Probably Waffle House.
Yes. He was waiting on it. He whispered it.
I
I
lived in
know.
Georgia and Texas and Mississippi.
You guys won big points right now.
I knew you'd know that if you were.
If you can breathe through the smoke, their waffles are amazing.
Nathan, how about you?
Probably lately it's been a First Watch. I don't know how far they stretch, but it's a breakfast place and
It's a little more healthy. It's
Healthy.
better for you.
no smoking allowed.
Better for you than Waffle House.
Okay, so question 6. Favorite movie from 1999 or earlier?
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Remember the Titans, probably for me. I don't know. Maybe
I don't know
Remember
when
the
that
Titans.
came out.
That was a good movie. Like, what's that?
I'm trying to remember before this century. I was trying to remember I think probably the Matrix, the first Matrix movie. That was a pretty good one. I think that was pre-2000, but I'm not sure. I'm trying to think about before.
And I'm sitting here thinking like Anne of Green Gables, something a little more
Oh, you said it.
acceptable.
So I actually had 2 guesses for you guys. It was running through my mind. And I said, I bet she's going to say Anne of Green Gables. For some reason, I thought Nathan was going to say The Goonies.
Yeah, I could see that. That's pretty
I've never
good.
actually seen The Goonies. I'm not really up on my classics.
But that is, he is into, really into sci-fi.
Yeah,
So I'm
sci-fi,
surprised you
action,
didn't pick
adventure.
Sci-fi,
Yeah.
And question 7, aside from your home state, if you could spend outside your home state, any itineration period entirely in another state, what period would it be? What state would it be?
What state would it be?
I don't know. That's a hard one.
Are we supposed to say New York? Is that the correct answer?
North Country, New York, right? Up in snow country.
I don't know. We've covered quite a few states, and each one has their own. But I don't know. We always have a good time when we go to California, but we only usually spend about a month out there. But we wouldn't mind spending a little more out there.
Yeah. Now I'll be honest with you. I have never been to New York, but it looks like a beautiful country. It really does. Like that's part of the country we would like to see if we ever could get out that way, but we just haven't been out that way
Back
yet.
where we are towards the Adirondacks and that, you would enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not talking
It's a
about
different
New York
country
City.
here.
I'm talking about like New York State. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, we moved up here about 7 months ago from Florida, and we didn't picture it looking the way that it looked. I guess we always assumed everything was New York City or suburb of New York City. And up here, it's very rural, a lot of farms, wide open, rolling hills, mountains, and so.
Adirondack
Mountains, and it's a lot of fun. Very outdoorsy, a lot of water, lakes, rivers.
Oh yeah.
Camping.
See, I've seen pictures like in the fall. I would love to visit it in the fall. That would be like just the way the leaves and the way you actually have seasons there. Texas, we didn't have seasons very much. It's kind of like, everything looks there's leaves on the tree or there's not. They hardly change color. There it looks like you have actual seasons.
You'd have to do that the first weekend in October.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah, that's peak, I think.
So what Diane's saying is that's a good time to come in on a Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds good to us.
Absolutely.
Which you guys are invited to, depending on your schedule.
Sounds good.
So hey guys, we are going to have probably a few more come in at random. Some may have to leave early, but it'll be a differing crowd, I'm sure, by the end. As we open up, we love that time to get to know you, to hear a little bit about you. And we're going to continue further into that on on things a lot more central to, your testimony and calls and your work where you've been. So just as a opener, we are, just a few of us out of our Calvary Assembly in Carthage, New York, up there by Canada. And
Wow.
we just wanted to open up the Zoom opportunity, which we did probably about almost 3 months ago, as the pandemic was kind of going on. And we still were occasionally having missionaries in here because we were doing a drive-in service, but we wanted to create the opportunity for our people to see our missionaries often and allow our missionaries still to kind of be getting in churches.
Yeah.
Most churches were closed. And so I guess we didn't really know what it would look like and how long it would live out. But God has been good. It's been a great opportunity. A lot of joyful and tearful moments, listening to stories and testimonies. But we're on probably the better part of 14, maybe almost 15 weeks now.
Okay.
That's
Awesome.
awesome. Wow.
Of Zoom calls, and it has just been a blast. And so outside of having a great time and getting to know you, it allows us, if you ever came in, to really have already acquainted with you. So there's this family there. We do always send in some support for our missionaries we do Zoom with.
Well, thank you.
That has already been sent in yesterday for you guys.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
At this point, we're going to turn it over to you, and I'll guide through it. But first of the 3 questions before it turns into group chat is, tell us, and I think you covered it shortly, where you are and how long you're home for. Where you are now.
We're based out of southern Missouri. Joplin, Missouri is where I grew up. Well, near where I grew up. Jen grew up in Texas, so we kind of go back and forth from there. And we will be here probably until the end of the year. We should have already went back, but our country closed because of the pandemic. So now we're biding our time, chomping at the bits. And as soon as they allow us to buy flights, we'll buy flights and should be headed out, hopefully by the beginning of this coming year. And so that's when the country is supposed to be opening up. So
he said it.
Good. Hey, so now at this time, any way you guys want to divide it, we want to hear a little bit about your background and your testimony.
You go ahead.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Well, goodness. I always knew, I guess, I don't know, I just always knew I was going to be in ministry. I grew up in church, kinda. My mom was saved. My dad was an atheist, but I lived with my grandpa a lot, and he pastored a church. So, anyways, different points in my life, people would say stuff like, just random people we had Sister Winnie from Zimbabwe, Africa. She went to our church, and she would tell me, Jennifer, you need to be a missionary. And I was just like, oh, and then later on, I had different ones that would say, just call me their, missionary girl and things. And I still didn't feel called to missions, but I knew I was going to be in ministry. And so then I went to Bible school, and my freshman year, everybody, we had some awesome services, and people were coming back and they were like, I'm called to this, or, oh, the Lord called me to youth ministry, or I just feel like, God's calling me to be a pastor. And I was like, okay, God, this is getting embarrassing. I don't, are you going to tell me? What am I supposed to do? And then it was my 3rd year in Bible school. I sang with a traveling choir, and we were up there singing. And what they would like for us to do is when we finished singing, we would go pray with people in the altars during altar time. And I remember that one particular time, I felt like the Lord spoke to me that he didn't want me to go pray with anyone, but that he wanted to speak to me. And so when we got done singing, I moved over behind some of the instruments on the stage, and the Lord began to speak to my heart about missions. And I didn't want to say yes, because like I said, I was already getting older. I didn't even go to college till I was 20. And so I felt like if I said yes, that I would be one of these single girls, traipsing through the jungle by myself or something. And so I felt like to say yes to missions was to say yes to being single. But I said yes, and then the Lord just, I started working towards going actually to Florida to work in an orphanage with some kids from Cuba. But the Lord just shut the door, and I didn't know what was happening. So 2 years after Bible school, my husband, who we were friends, he texted me out of the blue, and we began talking, and we got married. And 3 months later, we started our life in missions together. We were on the mission. He was already itinerating to go to Vanuatu.
Yeah.
And so the Lord just, when he closed the other door, he opened that door, and I knew it was God. And so I never actually felt particular call to Vanuatu, but I felt called to missions, and I felt a peace that I was supposed to marry him. And so that's how I ended up there.
Yep.
How about you, Nathan? Thank you so much.
Don't get scared, but when I first felt a call into ministry, I felt God working on my heart in ministry, was when I was 8 years old. I can still remember the place I was standing in California where we lived, and I remember thinking at that point that when I grew up, I either had to be a missionary or a pastor. And I thought, I remember the time thinking, that's unfair. Maybe I don't want to be a missionary or a pastor, but in my heart, I knew that I had to be one of those when I grew up. And I just, I moved on, but I never forgot that. Well, fast forward to about 10 years. I was in Bible school. My first year in Bible school, a freshman. I was with the same choir she was, but this is a few years earlier. And we're actually in Bonifay, Florida during that time for that service. And in that service, they had a missionary from Ireland up there speaking. And I was like, oh, I love missionary stories. I grew up, I loved always when missionaries come through. I loved it. I loved hearing what they were saying, hear about their places. And he did his spiel that day, talked about Ireland and the work there. And when we got back up to, the choir got back up to sing after that, because he kind of did the intermission. And as soon as we got back up there, I felt God just laid on my heart and said, Nathan, I am calling you to missions. And remember at that time, it wasn't a fight. There was just a peace in my heart that said, yes, this is what God is doing. This is what God wants to do. And I knew it without a shadow of doubt that he was calling me to it. And so at 17, I accepted as, that's great. I know I'm going to be a missionary. Well, then, there's a lot of places in this world, and how do you get into missions, all that kind of stuff. So I struggled through the rest of Bible school trying to figure out what is God, how is he going to do this? Where is it going to go? And it wasn't until I was actually, I was a little farther on. I think it was about 24 before I actually felt it laid on my heart where I was going to go. And it came through Brian Webb. He's a missionary in the South Pacific, has been for years. And he was working in Vanuatu at the time. And he had sent in a newsletter. I'd been to Vanuatu twice on mission trips, one of them with him just to help missionaries out. But I never in that my heart felt like this is where God was taking me. And the time I was with him, my second time there, I remember he took us to a village out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this is a 2-hour drive from town. Then you got to swim across the river because the truck can't get across it. And then you got to hike up a mile into the village. Well, there's a small church there. And I remember going in that church and seeing all the kids. We had a service, and it's like, someone should start a school here for these kids. I think it'd be effective in, just in making this church stronger and also reaching out to the community around it. Someone needs to do that. And still, I went away from the mission trip. I didn't think it was going to be me doing that. But turns out a year later, Brian sent a newsletter to where I was. And I remember reading that newsletter. And as I read it, he was putting a call. We need doctors. We need nurses. We need other missionaries. We need teachers. And that's what I was in school to be, was a teacher. And God just laid it on my heart and said, that's where I want you to go. I want you to go to Vanuatu. And so I applied to go see Brian as an MA, work with him. And I was trying to raise funds and do all this kind of stuff. It was going kind of slow. And I had a friend who was going to go with me. And through the process, he actually started dating another friend of ours who, he decided he was going to marry her. Then it was like, well, I'm going with him, but now he's going with her. I'm kind of the third wheel, and that's going to be very uncomfortable. So through this, God was kind of stretching me. And so I started talking with Jen. I'd known her in Bible school, and we reconnected and just started talking with her. And God had laid missions on her heart, and I was headed that way. And just one thing led to another. God just kind of leading things along. And we ended up getting married because I was like, I didn't want to wait till we got back. It's because my plan was to go to Vanuatu for 2 years, then come back and see where things stood. But God kept on moving us along. And I wasn't raising my money. So I was like, well, you know, in the meantime, until God provides the money, I'm going to move on with my life. And then we got married in 3 months, well, 2 months later, the money all came in. And 3 months later, we were on the mission field as a married couple. So it was a long, convoluted process for God to get me there. But that is it in a nutshell.
You guys started your early marriage on the field.
Yeah, the first 2 years of our marriage, we were overseas. Yeah.
Which I say is kind of good because, you know, a lot of times you have your families trying to get in the middle of everything when you're first married. So we just went away for 2 years and came back. So,
yeah.
So it had its pluses and its minuses, but yeah.
And you sure went to a pretty place. So did it feel like a 2-year honeymoon or what?
Well, it had its struggles, but that was one of the upsides, is that Vanuatu is a very beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get there, it's kind of primitive. They put all the pretty pictures on the tourist websites and whatnot. And usually when we share pictures, they're the pretty pictures too. But life can be rough, but it's really rewarding. We love what we do and where we're doing it.
I wanted to try to see if I could insert, I don't know how to do it, but I'll learn it later. But I had some pictures of the island as we were talking about it, and I tried to insert it unsuccessfully right now. On future calls, we'll get it down, but I can put pictures or videos of your island right across all of our screens. But you know, I'll get some training on that, and then we'll redo it.
Sounds good.
Place. And gorgeous, and I'm sure you guys have had your share of experiences there. So what would you say, both or one of you, was the primary thing that called you specifically to that place? I mean, what made Vanuatu stand out?
For me, it was a God thing. It was just another one of those moments. I had been on mission trips to Venezuela and Guatemala, and I'd been to Mexico, and it made sense for me, you know, South America and Central America, it's so close, you know, that's kind of where I thought I might be, but it was just a God thing. When Brian sent that newsletter, I'd been on a couple trips, and God just gave me a peace about it. He just dropped in my heart, and I knew, you know, there was no doubt. It was just, that was where he wanted us. I'm not sure what.
For me, my first missions trip was for 2 years. I'd never been on a missions trip or anything, but I really just fell in love with the people there. They are amazing. You know, it does, and like Nate already said this, you see one side of things like most places when you look at their tourist pictures and things like that, but most of the people there, they live in little huts, they have dirt floors, but you know, I mean, no electricity, nothing like that, but they've got the biggest smiles on their faces, and they will literally, like, they don't eat meat all the time, but if you come into a village, they're going to kill a chicken. They're going to, you know what I'm saying? They're going to give you their best.
Yeah.
And that just was like I said, I'd never been on a mission trip before. It was overwhelming to me that these people who had so little could be so happy and could be so hospitable and share what they did have. Really, you know, people, sometimes you go and you think as an American, I'm going to go on the mission field and I'm going to, you know, really just give them something. And then you learn when you go on the mission field that it's the other way around. You know, I mean, it really is. I learned a lot, and I learned to be a student of them. So,
Brian, I mentioned this maybe to you. Brian, he's such an influential guy. Brian is your area director, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yes, sir.
So he's so influential, and Brian was actually why we ended up going to serve where we went. But I believe, is he still writing most of you know, the articles in various places? He's still traveling to do that?
Well, he was up until March. Yeah, he's stuck with he's stuck right now too. But
States,
as far as I know, he still had a few more assignments this year.
Yeah. Yeah, he writes regularly for Worldview. And he wrote the 2 books. And I think he's planning on writing a 3rd book, but I think that's still in the works.
So their area director is a writer, a chief contributor to the magazine that we have here at church. It used to be the Pentecostal Evangel.
Yes.
Is the Worldview, and I think it comes out maybe every other month. And
something like
But even in our lobby right now, if you've seen the most recent editions, I'm talking to the church, of course.
Didn't know we even got it.
Buddhism one, the Angola, and the most recent ones on Italy and the world upside down. So if you had a chance to get those issues, probably somewhere in there, I'm sure Brian, their area director, has an article, and he has a great skill for doing that, and sucked us into coming to not Vanuatu, but Papua New Guinea just a few months ago.
What did you say about Papua New Guinea?
He almost got us into coming to Papua New Guinea. He had an October 2019 trip planned. He said, I'm going to do an article. Would you come?
Oh,
Said,
yeah.
If I come, I'm not coming home. And so we were hesitant to go on that trip. And the Lord,
So did you go, or you?
No, actually, about a week or 2 weeks before that scheduled trip, the gentleman in the orange shirt on this screen gave me an out of the blue telephone call and said, why don't you come up and take a look at our church? Yeah. And
Well, do you know Nathan and Tara Anders?
A little. Well, I mean, not personally.
Okay. They were serving in Afghanistan, and they have just announced that they are going to Papua New Guinea. So so God always he knows right where everybody's supposed to be, doesn't he?
I know there's a big need there as the missionary population had been falling off. So while Nathan, I'm sure, is tending to the kids, now you're.
Yes, I apologize.
I know. No, we talk to a lot of missionary families, and so this happens to be the time when kids are very needy between dinner and bedtime, and
he's tending to a dirty diaper. So
good. Good. He can come and testify about that when he comes back.
Yeah.
So going forward, and we'll get Nathan when he comes back, but share in the time that you've been where you've been. Tell our folks from Calvary, maybe one or two, couple if you have them, some of your favorite memories of, serving the Lord where you're serving.
Okay. Well, it's kind of hard to just say a memory, but one of the things we started a school in a village of Carmel, and so we have 8 school plants right now, and the one that we started in the village of Carmel, they did not have a church, and so it was kind of hard because most of the teachers we train are Christians, but the girl that came to train, we found out later she wasn't saved because in order to get it, we started the school to try to get a church in there. But anyways, through the course of starting the school, the Lord opened the door for us to open a church there too. They said just like maybe like was it a couple months after we started? A couple months after we started it, the school, they said, we would really like to have a church, and we're like, oh, we can help you with that. So we talked to the Bible school in town. There was a new student that was going to be graduating, and we had him come and start a church there. And then they let us know that the teacher of the school wasn't saved. And so I was just like, I didn't know what to do about it. And I asked the new pastor's wife, her first pastorship, I said, well, have you prayed for her? And she said, no, she really hadn't. I said, well, let's do this. Nathan's supposed to come back in 3 weeks. I'm like, let's just pray. Let's just pray for her. And so I was really, really worried and stressing about it and everything. And then Nathan went back, and there was no phone signal there. He went by himself. And so I went back, and I'm sorry, y'all. We're having some children difficulty. Please forgive me. The whole crew just came in here. Anyways, so Nathan, when he got back, I was praying. And I was talking to the Lord about it. I was like, Lord, you know our hearts, the purpose. When we train, we don't just train them to teach reading and writing. We're trying to train them to, think of it as a ministry and to invest in these children's lives. I mean, our hearts, help us with this situation. And so I was waiting for Nathan. He come driving down the road. And when he got down the road, when he got out, I said, well, and he's like, well, what? I'm like, well, what happened? He's like, oh, he's like, last weekend, the teacher and her brother both got saved and baptized, and I didn't even have to deal with the situation. So that was one of those things, one of those moments where I really felt like God came through for us. And so then the probably the second best memory, which is a bad memory and a good memory in one, but where we lived in the bush, and we didn't have we lived solar and rain tanks and all that stuff. And when we were first over there, we were expecting our first child, and we thought we lost her. Yeah. And it was just, there was a gentleman, I don't know if you know him or not, Brandon Forrester, but he's a nurse practitioner, and he used to serve in Vanuatu, and they chose to come back there for their vacation and see the village, take their vacation time to come see the village where they had served. And we don't really have good medical. And so they have a hospital, but it had closed on Friday. And so it happened on Friday night, so we weren't able to get out there. But long story short, in the middle of the edge of a cyclone, Brandon Forster and his wife, they picked up some Chinese food in the town, and they came out to where we were, and they fought that, and they stayed with us that weekend. And God just sent me, you worry about going in places without doctors and medicals, and I'll never forget walking through that, the faithfulness of God, that he literally brought me a doctor to my doorstep. You know what I mean? Like, he brought a doctor from the US. I mean, how God had orchestrated all for us to have a doctor there at that time. And then he confirmed our suspicions that we had lost our first baby. But then on Monday, when the hospital opened back up again, they had they used to do x-rays to like a sonogram, but they had a doctor from England was volunteering, and their crew had brought a sonogram machine. And so they did a sonogram, and they did a sonogram just to make sure, everything was okay, and everything was anyways, but they weren't expecting to find a baby. But the person who did the sonogram didn't know that, and she said, "There's the heartbeat," and I just started bawling. And the lady was like, "Oh, did you not want the baby?" And we were like, no, we wanted the baby. So it was just like, so the whole thing, and God had protected, and we hadn't lost the baby, but it just, the faithfulness of God, that he brought a doctor to my doorstep through the whole thing, and just to see his faithfulness and everything. And so
is that your oldest girl?
Yeah, that's January. She'll be 9 in January. So yeah.
Tell us again the names of your girls.
January, Juliet, and Valencia. So Valencia's a family name, so we kind of broke off of the J's for our little caboose.
And January was born in January.
January was born in January, yes.
Yeah. Good.
So,
hey, Nathan, a memory to at least one that stands out to you, that's just highlights some of your favorite moments there.
Ooh,
I'm going to say my favorite memory for him was when we just got on the field and they asked him to preach Easter Sunday. Yeah. That's my favorite memory.
No, that was a rough one. I didn't even know the language yet. But probably the one that comes to mind was, we were out in the village we were talking about before, where we started our first school. We were there, and we were planning on going back that day. It was like we'd spent like the week there or something. And they decided, they told us about, hey, one of the main elders in the village, he said, my brother, he is at this other village and he's sick. He was at the hospital in town. He had a stroke. Well, he decided to go back to his village and get healed. There was some sort of healing water there, and come to find out, oh yeah, he's also a witch doctor, and he had to go to his special pool in his village to get his water and everything. Well, things didn't turn out so well, and he needed to go back to the hospital, but there was just no way to get him back. And so he said, would you be willing to drive him to the hospital? So I said, yeah, how far is this village? And they said, oh, about 30 minutes, just 30-minute drive, and, we can pick him up and go to town. I was like, I looked at my gas on my truck. I was like, we were about a quarter of a tank. I knew a quarter of a tank would get us back to town. I was pretty solid. He could get us back to town. It's like, well, if it's only 30 minutes out of the way, I think we can do it on a quarter tank. Well, it ended up being like
4 hours.
Like a 4 hour. It should have been a 2 hour drive. It ended up being a 4 hour drive up through the middle of the jungle and the mountains. And it was one of those experiences where you're like, oh yeah, it's going pretty good. And you're kind of, you're looking at the gauge and the gauge is going down. It's like, I don't know if I think we're going to make this. I just had to keep hopeful. I think the whole time I was like, oh, Jen, it'll make it.
Because let me just say this. I had told him I don't have a very good feeling about it. And so, anyways.
And I believe my response, probably didn't win me any points, was, you never feel good about anything.
And he's right. So.
And so we went on this trek, and we came around this one corner, and you could see up ahead, there was like the road like goes up the side of this mountain and like turns sideways on the face of this mountain. And I'm looking as like, is that our road? You know, I'm trying to keep it all cool and calm on the outside, but Jen, she just started crying in the passenger side. And the guy who was riding back with us, the elder from the village, and he's like, oh, Jennifer, I'm so sorry, sorry.
Missy, sorry, Missy.
She was just crying and bawling, and he was just kind of like trying to soothe her. And I think he was feeling bad for, it was taking us so far out of our way. And, she was, at this point, we're in danger of our lives. And then I just like, well,
it started raining. And so what was the road on the side of the mountain was kind of falling.
It turned into a muddy mess hanging on the side of the mountain. And so I was like, well, we can't go back now. It's longer to go back than forward. So I just went ahead, and we're in a 4-wheel drive, or not a standard. And I just had to learn to drive a standard when I got there. So I'm not real good on it. And then we're going up this steep incline, trying not to stall it, trying not to slip. And my knuckles are white, but all trying to keep a confident demeanor, so that my wife doesn't get scared anymore. The girls are sleeping calmly in the back seat. And it's like, oh God, please don't let them wake up. And they're just, but we made it all the way up to the top of that mountain. We picked up the witch doctor, and we drove him all the way back to town, and we survived. And all this on a quarter tank of gas. And I guess that's probably the real miracle. We didn't die, and that quarter tank of gas should not have stretched over 4 hours. There's just no way that's possible. God just miraculously stretched the gas in our tank, and we made it. But that was probably one of the scarier instances in that.
Well, it was a good time of God showing his faithfulness and provision. So that he.
And too, it's like, it was one of those moments too, when we got to the top of the mountain, it's a place where they've tried to start churches for years, but they never took. There's just a lot of spiritual warfare that goes on up there. And when we got up there, Jen, she was the first to recognize it. She said, this just feels like a place where that's abandoned by God. Like
I said, I know it's not true, because I know God is everywhere, but it just felt like it was so oppressive and so dark. It just felt like God's not here. And I knew that wasn't true, but it just like this oppression, that it was so strong. And then he said,
but I told her I'm trying to hang on too, because I'm feeling this as well. But it's like, that's why we're here, is to go in the places where it feels like God is not, and try to be a light. But God brought us through that, and he And
I'll never forget that when he said that. I looked at him, and then he looked at me and said, well, Jen, that's why we're here. I didn't want to go there. I'm just being honest. It felt so dark. I didn't want to be there, but and that resonated with me. This is it. These are the places, and we've been in a lot of hard places since then. We've been, I guess 10 years now there. So but God's always been faithful.
So that's probably the one that kind of stands out in my mind the most. It's just very memorable for a lot of reasons.
So you guys have been a very fun couple on this call, and we don't always get both spouses depending on where we're calling in the world because of the time zone.
Yeah.
So we have had both of you guys and had us laughing. I want to take us to the next part of our call, which is probably, the better part of my favorite part of the call. We turn it over and we just have some question and comment time. It's more interactive.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll let them ask any questions that stand out. I've got a few, but I'm going to turn it over first to the group. Yipper.
Did you ever, I was thinking maybe you had, but have you gone back to that place on the top of that mountain?
I don't know if we've ever been back there.
Since that, or was that the only time that you had done?
It's that
Sunot
mountain
is close to there.
Yeah, that mountain is Big Bay, and we actually have let's see, how many? Three of our school plants are in that area, not that particular village, but they're all on that same mountain. So
yeah, same area. And we have one up in another school up in the mountains, Sunot. It's pretty close to that same area where we're driving through. So we're working our way in as God leads. You know, as the doors open, we're walking through them.
It's a little hard. We have some resistant places that don't really want a church, especially where the witch doctor himself lived. It's
tough. I love you folks too.
I'm sorry.
I gotta say, I'd never heard of Vanuatu, but I had to look it up. You see, right there.
Yep, that's us.
And a whole bunch of islands. Now, what island would you be on? I'm looking at my map here.
We are on the biggest one, Espiritu Santo.
Okay.
It's up in your upper left-hand corner.
The largest landmass. It's not where the capital's in Port Vila, so that's probably the most visited, but we're on the largest landmass.
Is that the largest population place too?
I think it's third in population.
Third.
The capital island is first. It's Ifate. It's about midway down the chain. And then there's a smaller island down at the very southern tip, Tana. And it's, I think, the second biggest population. We're the biggest island, but the third largest population.
Our island has a lot of little pockets of people. You have to go a long ways. And
how do you travel from island to island? I mean, there's got to be like 20 islands here.
Yeah, there's 65 inhabited islands, and we've only been to about 8 of them so far. What we're doing, we're trying to concentrate on like the biggest pockets of resistant communities, communities that have been resistant to traditional missionary work. And so we're trying to target them first and then kind of move out from there, where God, basically as God opens the doors. And the main islands that have resistant populations on them are Santo and Tana, like I was saying, down south, and the island of Pentecost, which is in, it's just to the right of our island. It's a long, skinny one there to the right.
I see.
And those are the islands that have traditional populations on it that are still very heavily animistic, and they've been resistant to missionaries in the past. They don't want Christianity. They don't want churches, but they're opening doors for schools. So that's our door in, and that's what we're trying to follow.
It's not like a homogenous type country. I mean, as far as society and whatnot, communication between them or whatnot, is it pretty well?
So there's
different groups here, different groups there. Then
there's a lot of similarities, but yes, they're one generation away from cannibalism. So the last public feast was in the 1960s. So there's 120 languages. So that kind of does make things more diverse, but the Bislama is their trade language, and that's what we speak. So a lot of, like, when you go further into the bush, a lot of times only the men will speak the trade language. So it's very hard. The women only know, and some of these villages, may only have 50 people. So there's a language that just 50 people speak, or 100 people, you know what I mean? And so it's like, it's hard to communicate a lot of times with the women, but most of the men speak the trade language.
And so
what is a trade language? Just a trade?
It's a pidgin English called Bislama, but pretty much all the men will speak it. Most islands people will speak that. It's just kind of the language that ties them all together.
It's a mixture of English and French, and then some of the local dialect.
Local languages, It's just the trade language. So the one that holds them together.
It really kind of developed through Australia blackbirding. They would steal people to work for them, slavery. And
Yeah.
then when they, came back, they developed this language.
And working,
Yeah.
and then they brought it back to their islands when they were done.
So.
Is there a lot of travel between, you're not too far away from Australia?
Yeah,
is there just kind of like,
there really is. It's kind of like the Australian Caribbean. A lot of people kind of come over there to vacation from Australia and just come in for weekends or school holidays. So you get a lot of that kind of stuff.
We've only been to Australia once, but
Yeah.
I was in the hospital for like 8 days.
Yeah.
And so we didn't really actually like see Australia, but we had to get some medical. So that's probably our, but there are a lot of Australian people there.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but I guess most of the westernized people that are there are Australian.
Yeah, the biggest proportion.
All right. What other questions?
Well, I have a question. If you are in these schools, are you allowed to say anything about God, or would that have to be done in a church?
No, we have been given complete freedom in what we teach in the schools. Even going into some of these resistant communities, we tell them up front, it's like, this is a Christian school, so we're going to be teaching these things. But so far, they've been even open to that. The most of it is they're so desperate for their kids to get education, they will take the education in whatever form it takes.
Wonderful.
And so the door has been opened, and because we do use it as a way to try to reach these kids with the gospel. We use a Christian curriculum. And so they're learning.
Genesis,
that's wonderful.
all the way to Revelations. Yeah. We have devotions every morning. We have chapel services once a week.
And
so,
they're memorizing scriptures.
Oh, praise God.
All the time. So it's an amazing opportunity. It's a God thing. And so we're just going to take it to every place that allow us to. And the ones that won't, we'll just pray that door open too.
Praise God.
Yeah. Yeah, you have like a lot of grades there, or how is it, like one schoolhouse type thing with it?
So we have the majority of our schools, we start off as kindergartens because so most of our teachers have the equivalent of an 8th grade education because we're working with locals and we're training them. Our program trains locals, and so we work with what we have. So we start off as kindergartens, then we'll add grade 1 and 2. We have 1 school through 12th grade and 2 schools through 6th grade, and the rest of them are all 3rd grade or less at this point. Yeah. And then what we're doing is we're trying to, going back, we're actually wanting to start a teacher training center, and we're trying to train our teachers ahead of their students. Yeah. So it's this is just where we're at, you know. I mean, we were dealing with literacy. When we started our first school, we had anywhere from 5-year-olds all the way up to 13 and 14-year-olds in kindergarten together learning to read. So yeah.
And so we start as kindies, and year after year we reassess and say, okay, so they have enough kids that are ready for 1st grade. And if they have a kid that's ready for 1st grade and we have trained a teacher to teach 1st grade, then we kind of move that school along, where we kind of graduate them to the next level. But it really depends on having a teacher that is sticking with the training on their end and, kind of being educated ahead of these kids.
And what we do is basically the whole time we're there, we're traveling from school to school. We're holding trainings. We're trying to further their education. We're holding little like children's crusades, things like that. It's so
trying to mix it all together in one time.
On top of trying to like start the new school plant. So yeah.
So I've got a fun question. We tend to ask, depending on where they serve, this question to everybody. But would each of you give us a fun, just several few lines of the local language? Say anything you want, provided it's clean.
We wouldn't know.
Okay. Suppose you want to tell me one something. Lo tok kia, tok bishlama. Me tell him something here. From me no sabe some not something lo talk about. And that is all I said there
What you
was,
said.
when someone asked me to say something in Bishlama, this is what I say, because I can't think of anything else.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I heard English, Spanish.
Yeah.
French?
There is like a Spanish word or two.
Well, because French and Spanish are similar.
Yeah.
Like save. Save would be.
I heard Sabe and I said,
Yeah.
okay. And then I heard a French twist and it went back to English. That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pidgin English. I think they say 85% of it is English vocabulary and the rest is split up between French and local languages. But the speed of how people say things and how they twist their words and accents, it gets really difficult to understand what they're saying. It's taken us all these years to get comfortable just, being able to conversate with people.
Oh, I'm sure it's nothing like, Asian
yeah.
language, like Chinese or something like that. Yeah, it's a lot easier.
Now, Jen, would you give us a try? And we welcome you to make fun of us, or at a minimum, make fun of your husband.
No. Mi fella one time tell him say thank you big one from one big fella channel flong stop with mi fella to delo night. Mi hope say tama mi fella finisia ba you fella think about mi fella tama mi fella stop pray.
Wow.
So I said thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you guys tonight, and I hope when we're finished here that you guys will think about us and Vanuatu when you pray.
Amen.
Pray for you.
That's awesome.
All right, other questions? Go ahead.
Do you see yourselves here in New York at any time at all? I mean,
Do what? I didn't hear.
I think it's hard to upset one point.
Did you ask if we've been to New York?
Yeah, do
Do you see yourself here in the future at any time?
Do you know what? We follow every invitation.
We're pretty open, yeah.
Okay.
So.
We'll go anywhere. I've never actually been to New York yet. The farthest east I've been is Pennsylvania. So just missed you guys.
We'd love to have you here.
Absolutely. We love it.
We'd love to do that sometime. We really would.
Bless you, folks.
Hey, so other question. I've got a few silly and a few serious, but I want to give everyone a chance. Jennifer, you mentioned singing in the choir, a traveling choir. I wondered if we could put you on the spot and and have you give us just maybe, if not the whole song, at least just give us the chorus of one of your favorite traveling songs.
So I'm going to be real honest here. The first time I tried out for choir, I did not make it. I was one of those people that they had in choir to pray with people in the altars. I was not in choir for my voice. They recruited me to go pray. Now Nathan, he sings and plays, so we could put him on the spot. I really don't sing. I don't even know how I ended up in the choir. I really don't.
All right, then both of you are going to sing, and Kipper, he does harmony.
You can harmonize. You want to harmonize with him? What?
I've tried.
Well, let him pick the song. What's the song he likes?
I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice to
worship you, oh my
soul. Rejoice. Take joy,
my King,
in what you hear. Let it
be a sweet,
sweet
sound
in your ear.
You sing lead and let him. Did you say he harmonizes?
Yeah, but we did it reverse, and that's
Yeah, we
okay.
did.
I know.
He started singing the melody, so like, I'll
You have
just jump harmony.
you have a beautiful voice.
You guys are fun. All right,
I think you should sing lead so we can hear him harmonize.
let's do it. Nathan, do you have something in mind?
No.
I just keep going back to I just sang in church last night, in the garden.
Oh, I come to the garden alone.
Yeah.
Annie walks with me.
So I'll sing the
He's
chorus.
ready.
Okay.
Know him, yeah.
And he walks with me and he talks with me and he tells me I am his own and the joy that we share while we tarry. None
You probably heard the joke.
You know, we have two in the choir here. For me, it's
awesome.
Right, we've got Diane. I think I heard her come in, didn't I?
I heard it.
I thought I heard Steve.
And we had Steve. So we've actually got.
I can't help it. If it's a tune, I can't help it.
Oh, it was good. It kept breaking up for me, so I was trying to keep with everybody else, but it's
Yeah.
kind of hard on here.
But you remember the joke about the kid asked his dad, "Dad, who's Andy?" Andy walks with me.
Yeah.
And
boxes for you.
or surely the presence of Lord.
For Howard be thy name.
Oh, what is it?
We were getting a beat there.
Howard be thy name.
Howard be
Sorry, that was
I like it.
I hadn't heard that one.
No, it was a good atmosphere. We were going to come in and sing something.
Yeah, now we can just rap to that. So I have a question, and I feel bad because I think we came in like super late. But how long have y'all been missionaries? Hi.
We started in 2010. We arrived on the field for the first time in January 2nd, 2010.
Wow. Okay.
We've been at it since then.
Okay. And do you guys have children?
We do. We've been struggling with them, trying to get them to go in the other room. We have an 8-year-old, 7-year-old, and an 18-month-old. And so.
Oh, okay. Super cool.
And we're done. And they're all girls. So.
Yeah, we're done at 3. It's we're good with our 3 and.
How many kids? I see you have kids.
Yes, this is Jude. He's
Right.
Oh.
He's 5 months old, and then Hazel's over there. She's 2.5.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh wow.
Hi.
Hi. What you doing?
She's like, I don't know you.
We looked up where you guys are at, and I've got to say, out of all the places that you could be a missionary, that looks pretty fun. I'm sure there's hard spots, but
yeah.
It's nice.
No, it really is a beautiful place. On our island, we actually have it's ranked one of the top 20 beaches in the world. That was a few years ago. It's beautiful, beautiful beach, and
it's about a 2-hour drive, and
it's an hour now that they paved the road.
Usually, every time someone comes over, or if teams ever come over, we always take them there to see it. So
it kind of
mission trip to you guys.
That's how we recruit.
There you go.
And lure them in with the beaches, and then we take them to the villages.
Actually, the pretty beaches creates kind of a misperception for us in the islands, because anytime a team comes over there on our day off, we take them to the beach because it's pretty and it's a day off. Hey, let's do that. They want to see it, and we take pictures. So then we post those pictures. So the only pictures that are posted is us in these beautiful places. And they think, oh, that's their life. That's all they ever do. Is we only do this when people come over. So,
well, we got birthdays.
Yeah, birthdays and stuff.
Like
Yeah. There's nothing else to do in our island. So any special occasion, we kind of go to the beach. So you're kind of burned out on it.
Yeah, we have no fast food. We have nothing like that. So, or no, there's a few restaurants, but we just kind of.
So you're saying you want us to mail Chick-fil-A?
Oh,
yes.
You know, I have been mailed their sauce before. I have been mailed their sauce, and it did make it. And so I'll just throw that out there.
Okay. Really neat. Hey, I've got a question, and then we'll turn it back to the crowd. Not earthquake. Was it the hurricane?
Yeah.
How did that affect, your people, your churches? It looked like it wiped everything. Awesome.
So we have 8 schools, and it completely destroyed 3 of our 8 schools, and it heavily damaged 4 out of the 8. So only 4 of our schools completely come out unscathed. So yeah, that was pretty hard to go through, to be here and be stuck, and with the Corona not being able to go back over there. Yeah. So we bought tarps, and they're operating under tarps right now, and so we're doing what we can.
Yeah.
From where we're at.
Actually, the first school we started, it was destroyed, and it was hard seeing pictures of that. Just that they cleaned it up, just the foundations there. So
it was our nicest school. We had just remodeled and tiled it, and painted it, and bought Asia's little ones sent us desks and chairs, and so yeah, that was a bit rough. But God knows. I mean, He knows what He's doing. So. Anyways.
Yeah, and they just got money, so they're repairing we have some assembly churches on that island, and they just got money to repair all the roofs for that. So that's still in process. So they're still really recovering. They've moved on with life as normal, but they're still rebuilding houses and churches and, getting things up and running. But,
And I don't know if you've told them or not, Pastor, but we are the girls ministry project for 2020. Okay, is this okay?
This is Diane.
Okay, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I gotta call you. But anyways, and so we had our first school plants we were going to do was on Pentecost, which is where Nathan was talking about, is custom. So like the animistic. But now going back, our first projects will be to rebuild what has been damaged, and then we'll move forward from there.
Get everything sorted out, all the schools back up and running on a full force, and then we'll start new schools.
And so girls ministries will be helping us with that. That's good. So.
Make a shout out for girls ministries.
You were really touched at that question, Jennifer.
It's been really hard. We were planning on going back in March, so it was like literally within weeks of our. So it's just, but God, I trust the Lord. He's faithful.
So what's your percentage, your financial percentage right now?
We're like 120 on our cash, and I think we're coming right up on 90 at our monthly. So we're very close. I feel like by the time it opens up, we'll be able to get our clearance.
Yeah.
So,
right there.
Yeah.
Can we as a church say something to you right now?
Sure. Yeah.
We are going to pick you up.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. That's awesome.
Starting tomorrow, you got our monthly commitment.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it, guys. We really do. Thank you. It's very encouraging.
Yeah.
Thanks.
If that gets you back to doing what you're doing a little closer, and with the assemblies, guys, just as an education, you have to raise a cash budget that takes care of a lot of your one-time expenses. And then you have to sustain and raise up a monthly budget. And the monthly budget is that the every month expenses that are usually reoccurring, without the 2 of them being full home. And when both, even if the one is at 130%, now back in our day, they used to control it.
We will.
Yeah.
But when both are at 100%, then they can go.
Yeah.
Especially when you see somebody in the window of being 100% in one fund and the other fund is within the last 10%, it's like, give it.
Yeah. We've been feeling it. It's almost there. It's like, we know it's all in God's timing.
Yeah.
And we're trusting Him for it, but maybe not as patiently as we should. But we're trying to trust. Yeah.
Well, you got our monthly support. It's at $60.
Thank you.
Now, and
thank you, Pastor. Thank you, church.
We really something on top of that to help you convert it over.
No, thank you. We really couldn't do it without churches just like you, and that's awesome. Much appreciation.
It is a joint effort, and we thank you so much for putting your faith in us, and it is very humbling, and we don't take that kind of stuff lightly. Churches, just not just your church, but all the different churches that support us. We want to. We're not like amazing people, but we want to do our best to do right with your funds.
And hey, you never know. We're just putting it out there. The invitation is open if you ever want to take a missions trip. We will be willing to host you guys.
These schools are not going to rebuild themselves.
That's not falling on deaf ears.
Hey, so we'd be glad to. I certainly couldn't work it out with you now, but there's no telling, of course. Lord willing, everything's free to go and things look good for next year, but provided you're there, and we suspect you'll be there soon, and we travel, we'll put it on the books as a tentative 2021 and figure out what would look best with you guys, and let the Lord pick our team for that. And I'm volunteering myself.
Oh yeah, hey, someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do it.
It's because of the beach, isn't it? He mentioned the beach.
You know what? If we don't go to the beach, it's all right. If we can string up some hammocks between two poles and.
It's an adventure, that's for sure. I hope you're okay with outhouses. That's all I can.
That's okay. Some on this call might have an outhouse.
Really?
Under the bus, but we're pretty unique out here. Randy, you don't have a house, do you?
No, mine's stick-built home.
Okay.
Hey.
My question is, are there like giant bats and stuff?
There are. We have fruit bats there, and they can get up to like 3 feet across on wingspan. Some of them I've seen. They're big, and they eat them too. So I've got to taste that a couple times. Not pleasant.
And our girls have eat bat too. Yeah.
The girls got to eat those too. Yeah.
Gross. Okay.
Yeah.
Nathan, you
It's
get
not pleasant.
you eat what you're served, right?
You do. Luckily for us, we have refined the technique. But usually their kitchens and eating areas are open to the outside. So as you're eating, of course, all the dogs and cats from the village kind of collect to get the leftovers. And so you take the first couple of bites and you smile at them and thank them and and just keep smiling, trying to get it down. And as soon as they turn their backs, you start feeding pieces of it to the dogs or cats.
Now this is where the Chick-fil-A sauce comes in, right?
You never
You're like,
know.
what's that? You're like, thank you for sharing, Pat. I'd like to share with you my culture.
Oh no, I cooked. You should have seen the poor pastor. There's a local pastor. I cooked a meal for him, and he couldn't eat it. It was baked beans. He couldn't eat baked beans. He was like, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Being Texan, just if you brought out that red bottle in the middle of a good village meal.
Oh yeah, Tabasco.
You just say it's a piece of my homeland. I brought some Texas.
I'm too nice for that. I wouldn't do that to them. I'm not going to do that to them.
I think.
No, you were saying that there's some cannibalism over there. They haven't ever served you human, have they?
No. I said they're one generation. So the last public feast was in the 1960s. It is now. That as far as we know,
there's no more cannibalism.
I mean, there's not supposed to be. I'll put it that way.
But there's still people alive who were cannibals. Yeah. So anybody 60 and above, could have. Well, that's more than that now. Yeah, 60 and above could have taken part in cannibalism. So you just never know. If you meet an old person in the village that they may have tasted human before. So
I don't think we've. I don't.
Some has been
if
identified.
They start looking at us like we're tasty when we.
No? I'm pretty sure I'm a cat lover, but I'm pretty sure I've had cats, and I'm a dog lover, and I'm pretty sure
we may have had dog a time or two. We're not sure.
They do eat cat, they eat dog, they eat horse.
Sometimes you just don't ask.
Yeah.
We have Chinese restaurants here that may or may not,
I've heard rumors. I have heard rumors, and the Chinese, if they do, they make it taste good. At least.
In Korea, it is they only eat a certain type of dog. They don't eat every dog. It's a certain type of dog that they raise. Don't know the name of it, but
Where is this at?
in Korea,
Oh, in Korea. Okay.
South Korea.
But you know, it all evens out when you put it in the General Tso sauce. I mean, so.
That is, what does it cover? The multitude of sins, or
General Tso sauce, it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah, just ties it all together, you know.
Man, hey, what other questions do you guys have?
Well, I'm really excited to have heard from you, and it makes, I don't know, collecting for Vanuatu a little bit more special. And Girls Ministries usually does very well. And I have already shown the promotion video to our church, and we'll definitely show that again. It shows the beautiful side of it, but then it shows, you know, the kid. Well, you know the promotion video, but
Yeah.
so I'm really excited to continue collecting for your cause. So
awesome. And if you want, he had given me your number, and I don't know, after we've had this conversation, you may not, but I can give you a call if you wanted to set up something. I'm happy to talk with your girls at any point. So.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be awesome. I think they would really enjoy that. So
Diane, when is your girls' event?
it's the last weekend in September, and I believe it would be the Friday night. It'd be the 23rd, I think. No, 23rd. Let me check my calendar. It's actually it's the 25th.
Okay. Well, Friday nights we're pretty open. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Sundays is usually when we're the busiest. And so Friday night, I'm sure that far in advance, if you know, just however
we
you
thought about
I'll do it.
7:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't I do this? Why don't I give you a call sometime tomorrow? Are you available tomorrow, or?
Yes.
And
tomorrow I should be available. Yes.
And then I can just write it all down, and we can figure out I can get a better idea of what you're looking for, and you know what we have that.
Yeah. Okay.
So
That'll be great.
I'll call you tomorrow then.
Okay, that'll be great.
Awesome.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
That'll be good.
Me too. Yeah.
I'm really sad to hear about the schools, because that was going to be one of my questions. How many schools do you have? And so now you're going to be rebuilding the schools. So how many schools do you think you'll be able to rebuild?
So we had planned between 15 and 20 new school plants, actually. So that was very zealous, but yeah. But with rebuilding the 4, I don't know. It just depends. It just depends, you know.
Yeah, most of the ones we lost, they were pretty simple structures. They shouldn't take too much to rebuild, because the foundations are still there, and that's one of the biggest things. Big costs is the foundations, but the foundations are still there, so we'll be able to put stuff up on top of them, and so it should be pretty quick, pretty low cost. But that shouldn't take too long once we get the ground.
Yeah.
And
so some of our schools are just like that. I mean, not all of our schools. Some of our schools, once a school is established for a longer period of time, we invest more money in the building. But when they first start, we kind of just do the thatch siding and stuff, and kind of make sure it's going to go, it's going to be able to continue. And so
one of the villages we wanted to work in, do a nice building for there. It's a small village up in the top of these mountains. And so far they have 3 little buildings, because they have kindergarten and then 1st through 3rd. And they have 3 little buildings. They're just thatched huts with grass roofs and dirt floors still. And they're doing really good. They've grown. The first year they started with 7 students. And they went to 15 students, and last year they were at 30 students, or this past year they're at 30 students. And so year over year, they're showing growth. Their teachers are interested in being more trained, better and better. And so schools like that, we're like, okay, they've kind of proven themselves over a number of years. So when we go back, we're going to build them an actual building with a cement floor, and kind of go, a metal frame, metal roof, and just something a little more substantial. So
a lot, and with us, a lot of what you lose, like during the cyclone like that, sure, we had some buildings, but you lose your desk, your chairs, your whiteboards, all your curriculum. So, and curriculum can get expensive. So that's kind of part of what will have to be replaced too, not
more than just the building.
The buildings.
So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is the island open yet? I mean, for you guys as outsiders to come back in?
There's 12 countries that are COVID free, and Vanuatu is one of them. So they only have 3 respirators in the entire country, and they're in the capital. So they don't want COVID. So they're just now starting the process for people who had visas before 2020 on an individual person by person case.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Vanuatu's government's really slow.
Yeah.
So it's
and so we're in the process of renewing our visa, but since we didn't have an active visa, we're having to go through the hoops now, and so it's taking a little longer to get that.
And so far as we know, they haven't let anybody in yet.
Yeah.
Nobody from outside of Vanuatu has come in.
They have let some medical personnel come in from Australia. But again, that was visa holders. They had to have been there before holding a visa, and they're allowed to come in from Australia. Other than that, I don't know anybody else who has got in.
We don't know any Americans, I'll put it that way.
Yeah. No Americans so far.
But it'll be, I think, because the things are starting to shift and shake, I think that they're going to start. For one thing, they're actually considered fourth world. They're very poor, and tourism is part of their income. So I don't see how they will be able, I believe they'll be opening soon simply for tourists, and then that door will open for us as well. So.
Anything else outstanding? Any questions left unanswered? All right. If nothing else, Jen, Nathan, we have had a blast with you guys tonight.
It's been fun.
We've got to see all sorts of fun in your personality. I thought if we had enough time, we were going to ask you to give a testimony in your diaper changing. We didn't do that.
Oh, I told him you had a dirty diaper to tell it.
Yeah.
That's all right. We love families. And hey, so we'll hook you guys up, or you're already connected with Diane, and see how we can get that set up for our girls. That's going to be a blessing to them to hear.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And open invitation stands. So when we can see you, we'll make your travel worth it. And love on you and get you connected permanently to this family. And with us, as a church, once you come once, you're in. So, if not already on the first time, you've got homes to stay in, snowmobile to ride, four-wheelers to go out on boats to, and so
awesome.
They'll be trying to take you around and give you a home feel.
Hey, absolutely. You know, our calendar, because we planned on being gone in March, so we aren't full. So I'll have Nate can shoot you an email, and we definitely would be interested. Yeah. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. We bless you guys tonight. Just as the Lord said to Aaron and his sons, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you and lift his countenance up on you and grant you his peace.
Yeah.
Amen.
And we'll submit that monthly support tonight to the finance department and get it started by this week.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, church.
Lots of love to you guys.
Thank you.
Same to you. Love to you guys. Thank you, guys.
God bless.
Yep, God bless.